Right, let's talk about the Russos. Please bear in mind that this video was not planned at all. I've not done any prep for it, which was admittedly probably a mistake. But Paul's Game of Thrones video um, that's coming next week. So I wanted to get another mini up before we put the podcast up. So you get this. This is basically just a video that I decided to make because I've seen on social media a lot, on Twitter, at @the_master_cast. Uh, why? There seems to be a lot of people who are kind of having a go at the Russos or complaining about creative decisions the Russos made on Avengers Endgame. So like they were talking about the last shot they filmed for Endgame, the last thing they ever filmed was Tony Stark saying "I am Iron Man" and clicking his fingers. That they filmed that in January this year, and that was because it was a reshoot. And originally they were saying that they just had Thanos say "I'm inevitable." Tony smiles at him, clicks his fingers, and that's that. But when they were editing, they were like, "This doesn't work. He needs to say something." And I don't know off the top of my head who it was, but someone said, "Why doesn't he say I'm Iron Man?" So they were then, I think, having dinner with RDJ and suggested it to him, and he was like, I'm not sure if I can get back into that emotional state again." Um, and but they eventually convinced him to do it. And people have taken this story as because also I think they said that he initially had a little bit of hesitation about Iron Man dying in Endgame, but people have taken these things as basically saying that the Russos forced RDJ to quit. They forced Iron Man's death upon him, and they forced him to say that line that he didn't want to do, and they're terrible people for doing this. And like it just pisses me off that people can take small things like him saying he didn't want to say "I am Iron Man," not because he didn't think it was right, but because he didn't think he, as an actor, could get back into the emotional state required to make that worthwhile, to make it like as effective and as impactful as it was in the final film. Now, obviously he did, but he was unsure that he could. And the fact that people have just completely misinterpreted and misrepresented the fact that that's that's what he was saying in that moment, and they've taken it as, oh well, he just didn't want to. He didn't want to say that at all, and he didn't want his character to die. And the Russos have just forced it, and like he's put so much effort into this character, and the Russos have just forced him to force certain decisions on him. And it just pisses me off that like the Russos are getting flack for, first of all, just being directors. Like they have, doesn't matter how, really it doesn't matter how much like work RDJ has put into the character. Like they don't owe anything to him to do what he wants to do. They're the directors of the film, so they get the last call on everything essentially. But secondly, like the fact that like Robert Downey Jr. is not a pushover. If he genuinely didn't think that Iron Man should die, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have just done it anyway. He wouldn't have just filmed it anyway. He's clearly okay with this, and the reason he didn't want to say "I am Iron Man" in that moment was because he didn't think that he could do it well enough. He didn't want to do a disservice to that moment, not because he didn't want to say it because he didn't want his character to die. And maybe Robert Downey Jr. didn't want Iron Man to die. After all, it's the character that made him like one of the highest paid actors in the world, and also, it gave him his career, it gave him a second chance, and I think to be playing a role for 10 years that is that important to just your life, obviously it's going to be hard to step away from, and to know that this is the last time that you will play this character. Now maybe they'll get him back for cameos in future films, who knows, but this is the last time he will properly play Iron Man. So obviously it's going to be difficult for him to move on, but if he genuinely didn't think it was the right decision, I don't think that would have happened in Endgame, because the Russo brothers aren't stupid. Like, they understand that he understands the character more than anyone. Also, people are saying that they don't care about any other character than Steve. That they did a disservice to everyone else. There's been a lot of talk about Fat Thor, even though, like, the fact that he's fat is not the point at all. That's why him being fat is only used once as a physical representation of the mental state he's got to, that he's just let himself go, and that's why him being fat is never mentioned again. Like, the only time anything coming close to that is even mentioned is when Frigga tells him to eat a salad, which isn't even to do with him being fat. That's more to do with the fact that he just drinks a lot of alcohol now. But that him being fat, it's never mentioned again since it's never even mentioned in the film. You just see that he is fat. He's got a dad bod now, and that's it. Then it's never mentioned again, and it's not. That's why, like, in the final battle, he's still got a tummy. When he suits up and he's got his two weapons and he's being all Thor-y in the final battle, he's still got a big old belly, because that's not the fucking point of his character. That's just a physical representation for one scene. It's just a very easy and effective way to demonstrate to the audience that Thor as a character has changed significantly since 5 years previously. I'm having a bit of a rant here, aren't I? But I don't understand why people are suddenly hating on the Russos all of a sudden, even though, like, they gave us arguably the 4 best movies in the MCU. Now, if you listen to our recap episode of the podcast, which the links to that will be down in the description, so go check it out if you haven't done. You know that I don't particularly rate Captain America Civil War that much. I think it's good, but I think it's more of an Avengers movie than a Captain America one. But some people really love it, and they have every right to, and I can totally understand that. Winter Soldier is my second favourite. I think it's probably the best made of these films. It's really, really good. Avengers Infinity War is really good. It's really tight. It's probably better than Endgame. Endgame is a masterclass in fan service and paying off character arcs and story arcs and everything like that. And it's really tight in terms of its franchise continuity. So I don't understand why people are suddenly, why can't people just be fucking happy about something? Why does every fandom nowadays have to have people bitching and moaning all the time about something? It's like, it happened with Doctor Who, with Series 11. It's happened with Game of Thrones now, apparently. Fucking DC fans are a bloody pain in the arse. I thought the MCU was, like, safe from all that bullshit. Star Wars. Fucking hell, Star Wars has really... Like, that fandom is just the worst. I thought the MCU fandom, aside from all the Captain Marvel feminism stuff and comparing Tom Holland to the other versions of Spider-Man, aside from those two things, which are their own separate entities, really, the MCU fandom as a whole is generally quite nice to each other and quite, there's not many disagreements and there's not many people really, there aren't haters per se, but now there are, because no one can be happy about anything, and it's just pissing me off that people are calling the Russo brothers, like, saying that they're horrible people for fucking creative decisions because Robert Downey Jr. initially wasn't quite sure about the character of Tony and what they were going to do with him in Endgame, even though it was absolutely like the best way to pay off his 11-year-long arc. But sure, no, he knows best, even though he's like, I understand he gets the character, like I know that, but he's not. There's a reason he's not the director or the screenwriter. There is a reason. I just. So that was a rant, with a lot of swearing, which I generally try to keep the swearing to fairly a minimum, because some people don't like that sort of stuff. But I just got very angry, and because like I think since joining Twitter, which was basically for this podcast, so I could have social media outlets for it. Generally I quite like Twitter, but people fucking complaining about everything all the time is just the worst thing, and I hate it. And like, you're now blaming. It's the same thing with like when Rian Johnson was, where people were saying that he didn't know what he was doing with the character of Luke because Mark Hamill initially didn't agree with the direction that Luke's character went in The Last Jedi, even though Mark Hamill is an actor who is paid to do what the director tells him to, just like Robert Downey Jr. is an actor paid to do what the directors tell him to. Like, why are people so fucking entitled? I can't. I'm gonna stop now, because this is already, like, 10 minutes long, of me just moaning. So I apologise about that. I do want to make some, not necessarily longer, but more scripted, properly edited video essay style type videos in the future. But they just take a bit more planning and, working out. But yeah. But anyway, thank you for attending my TED Talk. That was dumb, wasn't it?